This is going to take from my time, or this is going to take from my energy, or this will take financially from me, from my bank account. Whereas if someone says, okay, what's the investment? Straight away, I know that they have a higher level of that emotional intelligence connection that instructs the brain to see that, ooh, there's opportunity in this. And that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this
Mm-hmm.
comes down to our childhood. It comes down to what we've experienced growing up. And I had the most horrendous relationship with money when I started my business.
Mm-hmm.
Really horrendous. It was scarce. It was hard to come by. It was impossible to make, even harder to keep. All of these stories that we tell ourselves because we've maybe witnessed that as children and when we've been growing up ourselves.
If you want to make more sales without the pressure to post on social media, I made this podcast specifically for you. I'm Leslie Stevens, and this is the Not an Influencer, an Impact Maker podcast, where we talk about other organic marketing strategies to bring more clients into your online business and the stories of the incredible entrepreneurs who are using these strategies in their businesses every day to create success. You do not have to be an influencer to be an impact maker and build a successful online business. I cannot wait to have this conversation, and I know you cannot wait to listen to it because Adele is just like the best person to talk to and full of so much knowledge when it comes to building a business. So, Adele, will you tell everybody a little bit about you and what you do?
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully you're all going to enjoy listening to this. I'm just going to tell the story, I think, and we'll see what comes from that journey. But yeah, I'm Adele Johnston, known as the Menopause Coach, and have the Menopause Coach podcast. So you can listen to that on any platform. We don't just cover menopause stuff, I promise. It's all very empowering, uplifting information around hormone health and, of course, menopause. That's in there. I am a positive psychology coach and breathwork facilitator. And I support women all over the world, really, with their empowerment journey through finding who they are again in a time that can create a lot of problem. Let's say that challenges as our bodies start to change. We might not even be familiar that it's due to our perimenopause journey happening. But I was in my early 30s when I noticed changes to my own body. By 35, knew that it was hormonal. By 37, I had started hormone replacement therapy and had been diagnosed with early perimenopause. So for me, my journey kind of, I will get into this, but started very much in the space of women's health, hormone health, and just understanding how that plays a massive vital part to our overall happiness, confidence, and resiliency. So, yeah, that is me.
Yeah.
That is who I am.
And she coaches in such a beautiful, positive, and supporting way. I've seen a lot of what she does, and it's just like the most loving and accepting environment. And what she has created is making a huge impact. So, how did you kind of take the position of going through this yourself and then transforming it into being able to support other people through the process?
Yeah, it was a big one. I'd already been working with a lot of women. My background had been in corporate for over 20 years. So I was in a senior management role in corporate. I wasn't feeling great. I was struggling a lot in the role. So confidence, heart palpitations, health anxiety, to the point that I couldn't even really commute myself to and from the house and work. The thought of even getting in the car and doing that commute used to cause such an overwhelming anxiety of, I can't do this, I don't know the route, what if I can't get a parking space? And that just wasn't me. So I'd recognized that there was a lot of this coming through, and I actually became one of the 1 in 10 women who resigned from their careers due to perimenopause symptoms. The unfortunate reality being that when I went to my senior level management, who were both females, and asked for some support whilst I got my HRT working for my body, because it doesn't just happen instantly, I was pretty much told that I would have to take a demotion if I wanted to take 6 weeks break from the job. So rather than take a demotion, I resigned and just decided that actually health came before money and we would figure it out. My husband and I had chatted it through. We were relaxing one weekend in one of our friends' holiday cottages in the north of Scotland, and I wasn't feeling great. I was a bit emotional, and my husband just sat up and looked at me and said, Adele, you're made for more than this. You need to resign. I was like, okay, I am in. Don't know what we're going to do, but I'm in. Don't know what this looks like. Left a very big salary that we needed. We needed that money. And at the time, I'd been working to support women at the kind of evenings and weekends. So I had 6 women at that point that I was supporting one-on-one through their own, just, I would look at it to say, a connection to self, connection to their bodies. Yes, some of them were fat loss clients. Others were educational journeys that they were taking to understand themselves, how to really up level in their businesses and their own confidence. And it was through that journey that I met a client called Meta. She's a beautiful woman who had gone through a medically induced menopause because of breast cancer. And she came to me through a recommendation. The person who recommended her said, look, she's going to be able to help you lose the chemotherapy weight gain that you've had and get you back to your marathon running personal best self. And we did all that and more. However, she taught me a big lesson. And it was that when I started to research how to support someone better in menopause care, because I'm not a coach who will bring someone into a blanket style approach. Everything is very tailored to that lady's needs and goals. And I hear the goals as well as the needs. And it just became very apparent to me that actually trying to research the menopause space wasn't just a grey area. It was a big black hole of missing support, missing information, lots of really complicated, tied up menopausal journal research, papers, articles, very medically written, not for Gen Pop, not for people like me who, yes, I've got a nutritional background. I am a nutritionist, luckily taught how to read research. And it just became so obvious to me that someone needed to bridge the gap between the medical space and the women who really needed to know, what does it actually mean? What does all this mean? So I found a hidden talent in that journey in being able to take the research that was really complex, boring at times, and understand what it really meant and put it into what I refer to as really easy to digest information. And I started to build a library, and I shared that with Meta. I shared that with some of the other ladies that helped them on their journey. And it just became something that beautifully evolved and became what it is now. And that whole library of hours and hours, hundreds of hours of reading time, made up what is now the Menopause Support Coach certification, which is a 12-week online support coach certification that we now run, which has double accreditation and double endorsement. And it's really cool that that's what we've built from that whole experience. It's just insane.
Yeah, I have had the honor of watching Adele go through that process, and I'm just beyond impressed because being a registered dietitian, I found myself in the same process of, okay, there's a gap here and nobody's interpreting it. Nobody's like able to very fully support a huge part of the population that has an incredible need for all of these things. And the way you've collected the information and allowed them to not only like implement these things into their lives, but really understand why and how it's backed by research that isn't, like you said, it isn't easy to understand. They put it in very medical terms, all of this data that you have to go through and figure it out. It's like a puzzle that you have to put together, and you've put this
Yeah.
puzzle together and placed it in front of them, so that's
Yeah.
that empowering element that gives them the confidence to move through this phase of life.
Definitely. And
So
what I
when
think really
you
is annoying about it all, and it is super frustrating for me, is that a lot of the research that has been done, it isn't even female research. A lot of the research that we have available to us is males, and it's rodent research. Again, we're not rodents. And I fully stand by that. We're definitely not rats or mice. And it just becomes too complex for any type of randomized control trial to one. I think a lot of it is around there's no funding for this type of research. Women or females with female reproductive systems and organs are way more complex to carry out research on because of the hormonal variances and fluctuations that we have, which causes a lot of nuances in the data. So therefore, it's unfortunate, and it's a bit of negligence, in my opinion, as well, that we just don't have female research within the female population for menopause care. That is starting to change. And being a small part of that myself is really empowering to know that we now have a private, put together charity called the Menopause Research Education Fund. And they are really looking at how we, as the people, can contribute to that charity to then look at, well, what control trials or what observational studies do we need to carry out? So, yeah, the research, as much as there's research there into endocrine and hormonal profiling, it's just a bit sparse for menopause, for sure.
Yeah. And it's time for it to catch up. So I'm
Yeah,
so
God, it's
grateful.
2023. Like, WTF? What is going on in this world? It's
Come on,
like,
catch up.
come on. Yeah, completely.
So you've created incredible things. But when you first started in the entrepreneurial space, did you approach any challenges that you just didn't expect to face?
Oh my gosh, yes. Do you know, I laugh about it, but I was talking with one of my business clients today, and she's going through a massive up level at the moment. So we were, talking that through. This is what I do to work with those ladies. And one of the conversations came out was how, in a way, we have to be extremely naive to step into entrepreneurship for the very first time. Yeah, it's that whole thing of, yes, we have a dream and we have this kind of rough direction of where we want to take that. But I think what I'd learned along the way was I am a very big risk taker. And sometimes it's probably because I have this massive, naive cloud above my head that is just like, everything's going to be fine. Like, what's the worst that can happen, Adele? Just everything will be fine. So there's been many challenges along the way. I still face them now. But I would probably say one of the biggest challenges that I had was trying to build a business when my own health, because of perimenopause, was really struggling, really challenged, and understanding how it wasn't just a matter of, well, we'll just eat a bit healthier, we'll move a bit more, we'll get a bit more sleep, and everything will be fine. Yeah, your body doesn't want to sleep.
We
You've got
wish.
insomnia. And yeah, exactly. It's like all of the things that you're taught that, these are the foundations for health. Get these in place and everything's great. But the whole concept of when your endocrine system is going through such a vast change from your brain right down to your ovaries, you're not really in control of that.
Yeah. So did you have any, I guess we can position this in a different way because you are a positive psychologist. So when it comes to being a risk taker and taking risks in entrepreneurship, what are kind of the tools that you can use to gain that type of personality trait or that skill set? I would say it's a skill set.
Yeah, it's the funny one. I massively believe that a lot of entrepreneurs out there, I mean, pretty much most of us, have to be some form of risk taker at some point to make some key decisions. It's always easy to stay within that comfort zone space. It's comforting, it's known, it's safe. But the moment that we get the opportunity to maybe up level. And, when I think back to even the very first business coach investment that I made was thousands upon thousands of pounds. And it was a big, scary investment to make that, to think, oh, this is wiping out everything I have, and I'm putting some of it into business savings and some of it into my own account. And this feels weird. What if I don't make this money back? But actually, it's then in the trust of yourself to know that you're always going to have decisions to make. So I don't believe that it's so much tools per se. I would say that a lot of this is in your personal practice and how you frame a lot of the situations. For example, the language that we can use. If I come up against someone who says, well, how much will that cost me? Automatically, I know that that individual is sitting in a lack mindset of, well, this is going to take from me. This is going to take from my time, or this is going to take from my energy, or this will take financially from me, from my bank account. Whereas if someone says, okay, what's the investment? Straight away, I know that they have a higher level of that emotional intelligence connection that instructs the brain to see that, ooh, there's opportunity in this. And that's exciting. So a lot of this comes down to our childhood. It comes down to what we've experienced growing up. And I had the most horrendous relationship with money when I started my business. Really horrendous. It was scarce. It was hard to come by. It was impossible to make, even harder to keep. All of these stories that we tell ourselves because we've maybe witnessed that as children and when we've been growing up ourselves. So that played a big role.
I think that's a very common story for a lot of people, because you see it all the time and it's on TV all the time, all of these relationships with money, and they're usually portrayed in a very negative way. So how did you break through that?
A lot of inner work, a lot of work. And I had help from professional coaches that worked in that space directly. So money mindset work. A lot of it, again, at the start, I thought, wow, this is never going to work. This is so woo-woo. This is, a lot of things like the affirmation work and doing a lot of gratitude practices, which we know as part of positive psychology really does work because of the chemicals in the body that helps to really instill and balance out. So I repaired and healed a lot of, and I don't use the word trauma lightly, but I would say, a lot of childhood and young life money traumas where it was really scarce when I was growing up. So that's the story I knew. That's the story I'd been told. Money doesn't grow on trees. It's not easy to get. We have to work hard for it. So that was what I knew. And you're talking about having to really unlock and unpack over 3 decades, nearly 4, of information that you're kind of, fed into. Yeah, big 4-0 birthday next month. So being able to kind of be in that space, for me, it was then understanding, well, how can I feel more abundant around money? Can I have a £20 note, because I'm in Scotland, if the accent doesn't give it away, a £20 Scottish banknote that sits next to me in my office? Can I put £10 next to my bed? Can I put £5 in my coat pocket and some coins in my car, so that wherever I am, I'm surrounded by money, and that money can't be spent. It's there to remind me that money is around me, money is abundant, and everywhere I look, it's there. So of course, we start to have that connection between our brain and our heart, that brain to heart coherence of connection of safety. It's huge. Of abundance, that it's there when you want it, it's there when you need it. And then doing that workspace around the positive psychology practices of affirmations and abundance work of, yes, I can make money freely. And I think a big one for me was, how can I make this much money from other people's misfortune? That was a big barrier for me at the start, until I realized that actually the more people that I helped, the more money my business made, the more people I could help, the more money my business made, the way more people I could help, because I could then employ more people to come and work in the team. So it was that ripple effect of truly feeling and recognizing that change. That's what did it for me. And it was over time. This wasn't an overnight thing. This took nearly 2 years of consistent work. I still do the work every day.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most enlightening things about getting to be an entrepreneur is you learn so many things about yourself. And you might not even know that you have a money story ingrained in you,
Right?
but we all do. And that it will pop up in different ways at different phases of your business. And it is about looking inward and doing the work to not be a barrier to yourself, because a lot of the time you don't even know what you're capable of. And I think that's one of the things that's beautiful about having a coach or somebody to see an outside perspective, to be like, well, do you notice you're doing this in this situation? Where do you
Yeah.
think that might be coming from? Can we dig into that and really kind of break it down and rewrite the story that you want? One of
Yes.
the big things that I had was I had a lot of money mindset struggles as well. And when people would have me set financial goals, I would never hit them. And it wasn't that I didn't have the desire to hit them or anything like that. It was just the way I was looking at my business. And then I chose to take money out of the picture because it was a block for me, and I was working through it myself. And I decided, what if I put clients there? What if I said, how many people can I help this month? And then it was nothing. I was able to go and connect with those people because I had just shifted from the thing that I was focused on that I found resistance with to the thing that I wanted to focus on and that I wanted to support in my business. And it's going back to what you said. It's about reframing things that start to come up for you when you start a business, when you go through this journey and everything that goes on.
Yes. 100%. I completely agree with you. It's so true. And, part of it, going back to what we'd said at the start, part of it is that kind of, you've never walked this path before. There's that naive inner being and within you that thinks, well, if I push that button, what will happen? And that is just, it's who I am. Sometimes it's worked and other times it hasn't. Some money work that I've done has probably re-traumatized some memories that were deep inside. I do a lot of meditation work and I do a lot of affirmations and manifestations. And sometimes I can go so deep that I'm just like, wow, I need a break from that. I can't do that again. So again, it's knowing your limits. It's working to those kind of boundaries. And I would say that that's a big benefit of doing this work, is that you feel into what is it that works for me and what is it that does not. And sometimes that part of what does not might be a person or a group of people. And again, it's knowing that you are within your rights and reason to know that they are maybe outside a boundary for you. So one of my big ones, and I share this openly, was my relationship with my mum had quite a fraught, challenging 7 years. And this, as we know it now, was due to her menopause, but we didn't know that at the time. And part of my journey through this has been then that I don't share a lot with my mum. I don't share a lot of the successes. I don't share a lot of the challenges, because what happened over time was there was a lot of judgment, and a lot of her money trauma would then transfer onto me. Yeah. It would be things like, but what happens if you don't achieve that? What happens if you don't make that goal? Oh, that's a lot of money. Oh, what happens if you lose it? So I thought, right, this has to be one of those people who are outside my boundary, and I need to protect that energy at all costs. And there was a few conversations had to be had. And then I was able to protect that energy more.
Yeah, knowing your boundaries, setting those boundaries, being secure in those boundaries.
Yeah.
It's definitely something that kind of curating your environment so that you can grow and take those risks and feel like
Yes.
you're in a safe place to take
Yes.
those risks.
Absolutely. I
So
have a
if
saying
you,
that I use
if,
a lot with my girls as well. So I've got twin daughters who are coming up for 13. So they're kind of going through all the puberty and the different hormonal changes. And we have a saying where it's okay, what's the worst that can happen? Can anybody die as a result of what you are doing? Because to me, you know this with me, but I call our time on earth our life currency. And life currency is ours to enjoy. We will give it away freely to other people. Sometimes it will be taken, okay, and wasted. Yeah, and that really grates on me because I'm like, this is precious. Yeah, I'm in my last life form here. This is really precious. Don't take it from me. So within the life currency part, the saying that we have with the girls then is, okay, can anybody die as a result of this? And they'll be like, well, no, it's just a maths test. And I'm like, great. What's the worst that can happen then? Go in, do your best, come out, live life. So I think that's part of what I do with
love it.
myself is when I have a big decision in my business to make. And bearing in mind, I have team, I have people that rely on me for their monthly wages. If I stop to really think about all of that, I would probably have an anxiety attack and I would probably be like, I can't do this. So instead, it's okay,
Mhm.
I have this decision to make. What is the worst that can happen? Will anybody die as a result? Because if it's going to cause a
Mhm.
death, then the answer is, okay, we don't go that way. But actually, if it's okay, well, we might lose some money, but if that's the worst that can happen, it's like, well, nobody's died as a result. So it's always recoverable.
Mhm. Yeah, there's always a way. But I love everything that you are saying, and I want to make sure everybody knows where they can connect with you and how they could work with you. So, where can they find you to have a conversation?
Oh, well, I'm probably most active in my Instagram. So if you are on Instagram, then head over there and search for the menopause coach. I believe I've been told if you go into Google, you can put Adele Johnston, the menopause coach, and all of the platforms I am active on will come up, including TikTok. I am on Threads. I am everywhere. And the podcast, of course, the menopause coach.
Yes, and I will have all of her links so you can go find her, listen to that podcast. It is incredible. And definitely, if you get the opportunity to work with her, do it. So, thank you so much, Adele, for hanging out with us today.
You are super welcome. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for chatting with me.